Okay, there we go. Welcome back, folks. Hello. I got Edmund here with me. Thanks so much, Edmund, for joining me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're going to do a 106 Deathless run. I'm going to ask you some questions about Meat Boy, Mugenics, Binding of Isaac. I'm actually like with Binding of, I'm sure that that's where you get most of your questions from, just in general. That is the game of yours that I probably have I barely played it, but with this one a lot. Yeah, the Mugenics trailer, Mugenics new trailer and then the release date. So that's exciting. That's February 12th? 10th. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's really good. I know that it was it initially supposed to be 2025 and then it got pushed back, or am I just misremembering that?
Yeah, we were shooting for the end. Like the goal was end of October. Like every game I've ever released, it's like very common that we release in October.
Yep.
But it was like looking like in order to make it, we were going to have to crunch like crazy. And the last time I did that was with Bumbo, and it was a giant mistake.
Sure. Yeah.
So I don't want to do that again, which meant pushing into like November, December, which is usually a mistake. So we thought, okay, well, we're gonna take a nice, comfortable 3 extra months and push into the early next year, but avoid like dead zone.
Makes sense. I mean, there's a lot in Mugenics just in general in terms of like mechanics. When I watched it was like IGN, I think, had 10-15 minutes of playing it, and there's already just in 15 minutes. That game looks like a really deep game, which kind of like Binding of Isaac.
It's the deepest game I've ever created, easily. Isaac goes long, and it has depth for sure, but it's the same mechanics throughout, and this is by far the most in-depth and complicated game I've ever worked on.
Gotcha.
It's pretty awesome.
Awesome. I'm going to actually go ahead and get this run started as well. Let me change over to a better scene here for that one. Actually, let me make sure that... oh, nope, that did mess up. There we go. Okay. I gotta move this. All right. Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna try to do a deathless run of this. For those of you new to this, I have gotten 1 as my lowest, and we're really close. I got it on. It was the Dark Salt Factory Warp Zone, the first level of it, which is like by far not one of the hardest ones, but I know that you with The End is Nigh, what is it, Enox, he was able to go through that. How did you find out that he was going, or like he accomplished that, or how he was going for it? What was that like? How did you find out about that?
Well, I think Tyler was very much aware of it, because I think we ended up adding the achievement after or around that time, and that's just insane. I can't understand it. I thought it would be impossible for people to just beat the beginning of the game, but we still added, the achievement to do it and an ending for it. I don't know. It's crazy. I mean, this is crazy, but the End is Nigh is just really difficult. It takes a lot of dedication.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Probably too much dedication, I would argue, but sometimes when you're in this stuff and you're just doing it, you tunnel vision, got to do something with your nights, I guess. I don't know. With The End is Nigh, how much was there, obviously it's a follow-up to Meat Boy in terms of the 2D platformers, but how much did Meat Boy come into consideration in terms of making things like similar or different or anything like that when you're going through development?
Well, I mean, the comparison was going to be there, and I wanted to make another platformer, and it was just kind of like, well, how do we go about doing that in a different way? And didn't want to do a full-on Meat Boy game, obviously, but I still wanted it to be challenging. There were a few things that I thought were really cool about it, especially the ability to drop faster, which I think I would put in basically every platformer I ever make from now on.
Nice.
It's kind of essential. And I don't know, it was just a weird time in my life where I felt like I needed to do this, and I kind of just went for it. Where like with Meat Boy, it was really about like the challenge, you know, matters. Like it's like, oh yeah, I'm doing this to win. You know, I'm doing this to challenge myself because challenging yourself is important. And the end is nigh kind of like put a spin on it for me where I was like, well, what if it isn't? Like, what if it is too hard? What if things get too hard? What if it wasn't worth it?
Sure.
Which isn't a great design for a video game, but it still put me in that space of like, kind of like I was very stressed out, and I kind of wanted to just try to represent that in the game. And Meat Boy doesn't really feel that stressful compared to me. There's a lot of like turning mechanics kind of on their head, where you know, spoiler, but eventually, you know, the game starts giving you a life system, and then it has a time limit, and then it reduces the life system, and like all those restrictions. I wanted it to feel like this endlessly restrictive, constantly messing with your, you know, your mental stamina, your emotional stamina, and I wanted it to feel like a marathon. So it's kind of crazy that people are even attempting to play it like it's like whatever.
Yeah.
We'll just do it deathless, and it's no thing.
I love that
Actually,
I've like debated whether or not I loved the mechanic of the you know, collectibles turning into your lives, because on one hand it can be a little bit frustrating if you're just like going through being like, oh, I don't have to worry about the collectibles. But then at the same time, like, I actually, at the end of the day, even if it is frustrating, I've just never seen anything like that before, and it does do a good job of exactly what you were saying, of just making it stressful, turning the mechanics on their head. At the very least, it's really interesting. I remember some speedrunners were doing like a day one blind run. Obviously, when you're speedrunning, you're not going for collectibles at all. So there'd be people with like 2, 3 of the tumors, right?
Yeah.
And obviously that's just not really possible. So they're having to like go out and then, you know, actually get some collectibles before they actually beat the game and move on. So for them, I'm sure that it was even extremely frustrating. But I mean, the end is not being frustrating, sort of the point, right? As well, yeah. Also, just for chat, hello everybody. We're doing this. We're trying to beat the Meat Boy 106 Deathless as well. We're also raising money for SGDQ and Doctors Without Borders. So your donations right now go towards the SGDQ 2025 donation total, which goes right to Doctors Without Borders. And then as well, if I'm seeing any questions in chat, I'll you know, grab those. But if you have any questions as well, donations is going to be the easiest part to have those. If you have any questions that you want read as well. But yeah, with this as well, one thing that I think is really great about Meat Boy and what makes playing it and speedrunning it so cool, and something that's not really done in a lot of other platformers, is the guest characters. The guest character, they bring a lot of variety. In this, there's one character, Nigh, that it just makes speedrunning really fast. For this, still makes it a little bit easy, but when did you decide that you wanted to have guest characters in the game, and how did that sort of come about?
Pretty early on. It was kind of like I wanted to pay homage to a lot of games that inspired me, especially like Ogmo, Jumper, and those sort of games, and other indies I was hanging around with. It was kind of like I was trying to bring some people up with us, and then also get a little help from other indies when it came to that. Mechanically, it was just, I thought it would be interesting to, you know, change up the mechanics. There are only a few that like levels that would require switching characters in order to get things. Yeah. So it wasn't like I put a ton. I could have definitely put a lot more focus into that, but you know, it was just more fun than anything else. I just wanted to have fun, and I thought it would be really cool to be able to do that. And a lot of the people, majority of the people that did cameos are all friends of mine, you know, people I knew personally, and I just thought how cool would it be to just be able to do that. And these warp zones too, like the title screen of all the warp zones were done by different artists that I really liked, that are all indie. They all got to do their own little drawings, and I would actually have them do the warp zone, like just do this retro art for me, and then I would make the levels based off of the art, which I thought was kind of neat.
I heard at some point that it was based off of the developers, but I was like, there's no way they went and designed the levels. So that makes a lot of sense in there.
No, yeah, I designed all the levels in the game, but yeah, I riffed off a lot of people's color schemes and general themes for whatever they were kind of doing.
Gotcha. Do you have a favorite guest character at all in these that you...
I mean, the one that we put the most effort in was definitely Commander Video.
Gotcha.
I like being able to, like, he wasn't that much of a character at that point in the indie scene, so I thought it was kind of cool to be able to almost develop the character a little bit for him.
Sure.
I thought it was kind of neat, and go with what I assumed logically he would be doing, floating around and such. I wanted a Princess Peach in the game. That ability was always one of my favorites. So I needed one that could lock a float and float across the room, and I think it was the very first one that we ever even talked about doing was Commander Video.
Nice. I know that was it Fly Wrench? There was the prototype was out then, but then the Fly Wrench actual game didn't come out until years later, and then the mechanics of it end up not even really being all too similar to the game, which, how was it with characters where it's like, was there a challenge getting some of those implemented into like a platformer, or was it just, having fun with it?
Not really. I mean, it was because it's all the same physics as in Meep Way. Like, Tommy made an editor for all the different, drag and jump height and whatever else. Like, everything was configurable, and I just kind of went through and kept tweaking these things, and then he had to hard code a few abilities, and that was it. It was fairly effortless, and I wish I could say that we put a ton of time and thought into all these different characters, but it was pretty much like, well, it would be cool if you explode when you do another jump and shoot forward. Let's see if you can beat levels with it. And then that was basically it.
Gotcha. Yeah, it makes sense. I know that it was very much a crunch on there just from Indie Game the Movie gave a lot of those. One question that I've always had on that is, when did you first get reached out to? Is this just people that knew you beforehand? Because it's sort of talking about this mid-production, but still fairly early on. What was the story about that?
A few years before, I think like 2 years, maybe a year before they started recording, a year before, they were at GDC, and I heard about, there was a documentary crew that were filming indies, and it was kind of weird at that point. Documentary crews filming indie games were like a dime a dozen. Like, I had been filmed by 3 other documentaries at the time, so it seemed like it was just kind of blowing up and people were talking about indie games in general. So there was a varying degree of, like, I'm working on this 15-minute piece for YouTube, or I'm working on an hour-and-a-half documentary for this to enter in film festivals, that sort of stuff. And these people, most of them, they just seemed like it was like it kind of was going nowhere. But then I heard about these people, and I'm like, okay, well, we'll see, because they were doing lots of interviews at GDC, and a few people recommended me, and they had contacted me. And when they came over, there was just something about them that I instantly knew that they were taking this very seriously, and they were very interested in it in a very genuine way, like not for financial gain. It was like, this is really cool. I think it's really inspiring. And they were approaching it in a very similar way to what we were doing with games. It was indie. They were indie. They were 2 people. It was a very tiny budget, tiny crew. And they filmed me talking about Ether, an old Flash game of mine, and used it for whatever reason. They used just a piece on me for a Kickstarter with a few other talking heads. And the Kickstarter did well, and it got enough funding, and then they kind of were like, okay, well, the plan is we're gonna just film you guys. We're gonna come over and film you guys when you're together. When you guys are apart, we're gonna film you apart, and we're just kind of gonna see what happens. And I think within within a few months of them filming, they were like, oh, I think we have a story arc, like with you guys. Like the general idea was we were going to be the full story arc of the game from like almost conception to release. And then you were going to touch on John Blow, who was the guy who already did it, who's like, okay, you know, they're on the journey. This guy's finished the journey. And then Phil's starting the journey. And that was like what they were presenting. No longer was it talking heads, you know, a PBS documentary that's just us talking about video games, but actually just artists and at different points in their lives and careers that were attempting to finish something that was very important to them that they were investing a lot of time and money into. I always believed in it. I thought what they were doing was really cool. And when we finally saw it for the first time, it was kind of mind blowing. They did a fantastic job.
Yeah, that was really, really good. I remember I had played this when it had come out on Steam, and then not forgotten about it because this game was awesome. But then that movie came out, and then it was one of those where I just immediately wanted to go and replay this and then Braid. And I don't remember if Fez was out by that time, but it was really close if it wasn't.
Yeah, Fez came out like right after the movie. Like it got a big boost. I remember people were like, wow, that must be really cool to get that boost from Indie Game the Movie. And it was like, well, we'd already been out for like a year. We didn't see that huge of a spike at all from the movie, but Phil really like, it was perfect timing for Phil.
Yeah.
Everybody was hyped about it.
Yeah, let me see if there's anything from chat as well. And then again, we're raising money for SGDQ 2025 today as well, everybody in chat. So all of your donations directly to Doctors Without Borders. You managed to get on this on ABC. Oh, the ABC Australia. That's cool, Sandshark. I didn't know that. Like, know about that? Oh yeah, cut characters. What were the characters that were like closest to getting into this game that were not ever brought into the game?
Gooball. Wait, did we do Gooball?
Gooball is in the game. I forget if it's in console, but you can at least type in a code to do Gooball.
Yeah, that's just a reskin of Gish.
Yeah.
So I think the Gooball was like the where we kind of stopped. There wasn't any characters that I can remember. I mean, last character implemented was Tofu Boy.
Nice.
And there were a few that we had talked about doing. There was like, but we didn't even have mechanics for it. I drew pictures for them, like their art for the character art and stuff like that, like splash pages for like the Mondo guy, and Kyle Pulver had this game. I forget what it's called, like Bone. I can't remember what it was. It was this like hockey player guy, and we talked about putting that guy in too.
Nice.
But for the most part, it was just like everything we got in was last minute period.
Sure.
So there wasn't much else we were attempting.
Yeah.
That was basically it.
I believe you were attempting to try to at least get, like, when you do the character warp zone, you go directly, you watch a video of those, you know, of Jill or Fly Wrench or whatever. You were trying to make those for all of the guest characters, right?
Yeah, I stopped at the Braid one.
I know that I have seen the Braid one. I think you can still watch it if you go on like the Wayback Machine.
I leaked it. I'm pretty sure I leaked the Braid intro where it's just like he appears looking at Band-Aid Girl's bedroom with his face pressed up against the glass, breathing on it. Yeah, that was a fun one. I was really trying so hard, and this was actually the cutscene that killed me. So the Chad cutscene, the cutscene that you guys see is actually the second cutscene that I did, and I can barely remember what it even was, but I think it had to do with Chad like dying in some horrible way, and then in just pain and agony, and you're just like awkwardly staring at him writhing in pain. And the flash file got corrupted, and I had no backups, and the whole thing was just toast. And I had worked on it for at least 6 days. Like it was like an intense week, and it was at the very end. And I had to just suck it up and make a new one. And I could not do the same one. I just couldn't not bear the idea of having to do exactly the same thing all over again.
Sure.
And that kind of also broke me when it came to like if I didn't lose that, I might have done some more intros for characters, but we just didn't have enough time.
Gotcha. Yeah, it makes sense, and obviously it was such a rush. Okay, we got a donation from Toho. Thanks so much for the donation. What was your favorite area in the Endless Night atmospherically and or mechanically? So the atmosphere and then the mechanics. Which are your favorites?
Overall, my favorite part of the game is at the end, where you go through to the orb, and then it's the moment where it clicks and you realize, because watching people play that area going through from right to left, they would comment like, I wonder what's up with that. Like they would like realize that, wait a minute, I could go backwards through this, and it would just never really fully clicked. And then at the end, it was like, oh, I'm gonna have to go backwards, and now there's a time limit. But the coolest part was the fact that the music was scored to your time limit, and the screen shake, and the glow, and everything that just made you feel like you were gonna die the whole way back. I really, really, really like how that was executed overall, and that's my favorite part by far.
Nice.
I'm trying to think of what mechanics. I mean, I really like the areas with the mother, the blob thing that reaches for you and grows. I think those areas are really like intense, and they always feel like you narrowly escape. Especially there's an area at the very end in Nevermore where it's a really simple area where they're just kind of reaching towards you and kind of swallowing you up as you go through, and it feels so nice that you can just squeeze through that little area. So I really like that mechanic.
I'm coming up here on my one of my least favorite bandages, probably just my least favorite on here. It's not the hardest, but it is the most frustrating here. We got to jump like off the very bottom, and it's just incredibly tight. When you were designing these levels, how much were you, obviously the game's supposed to be extremely difficult, but how much were you how often did you just say, okay, well, this is actually too difficult, or this is too annoying? How often did that happen?
Not often. The kids warp zone was definitely toned down. So I had to do what you're doing, but not deathless. I had to 100 and whatever % the game every day for testing to just make sure any edit that I was doing, everything was working correctly, all the achievements were working correctly. And the only way to really do that and to make sure that the game was smooth and felt nice difficulty-wise was to do it myself. And I did it every day for a full week, once a day. And the only time that I ever remember changing levels was all the kid levels, like all the kid warp zone levels, because it would literally be me hitting my head against the wall for this fucking warp zone, and I'd be like, okay, fuck this. Okay, I'm gonna take out that little spike there and make this a little more lenient here, mostly for me, like, because I knew if I was struggling this much, then it was gonna be. I usually use myself as a barometer of like, okay, I'm a pretty good player. Yeah. I'm not the greatest. I'm above average, so I can check my own personal frustration level and kind of go with that. And I do remember editing those levels pretty heavily. I think I remember editing, there's a level called El Topo, which is one where you're being shot at and digging into the earth. I do think I added a little spot that you could hide, which wasn't there originally. Oh, sure. And there's a few early game levels that I really smoothed out a lot because you'd hit your head against like tops of things and stuff when you were running. But other than that, it's kind of surprising. I wasn't that obsessive about. I was more obsessed with things looking nice than like playing like they played well enough.
Gotcha. That is, Kid being one of them that were notably toned down is one that's I can understand it, but it's almost surprising because that one is still just, I had to, the first time I played that, just leave my computer on overnight, which, reminded me of back just like, when I had N60, well, actually, whatever cartridge-based game, right? just have to leave it on overnight, and didn't have like really any saves or anything. It's like a cartridge of Super Mario Bros. 3 and go with, so it really reminded me of that. Okay, $5 donation from Akko. What would you consider the core art of your work? Do you find that it tends to differ at all from what audiences take away? Good question.
The core art? Like, what do you think they mean?
That's a good question. What I guess really just sort of the themes, right? Do you think that the players are picking up on the themes that you're
what
going?
I'm laying down?
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't think people like. I never want to be that person that puts that much of a focus. I hope I don't ever really come off like that. Like, the themes that I put in my work are primarily there to make me interested in working on them. Because they wouldn't be my games if those weren't the themes, because that's what I'm interested in genuinely, and I want to be as genuine as possible when I'm creating art in general. And when it comes to people getting it, I think a lot of people feel it enough for me to be happy with it. They don't need to fully understand everything I'm laying down. They don't need to appreciate every little aspect. It's kind of good enough for me. Like, it's a big one, obviously, with Isaac. Like, with Meat Boy, it's kind of, whatever. There's a few personal things in there for me, but that, you don't need to pick up on at all. But with Isaac, it's more apparent, harder to avoid maybe, and I know it makes people uncomfortable. And I always get like, you could probably make a lot more money if you would do this, or not do this, or do it this way, or smooth it here and make it more mainstream or broader. And it just doesn't. I don't think I could finish a game like that. Like, sure. I don't think it's hard enough to finish a game, right? And for me, when it comes to motivation, I stay primarily motivated when I'm artistically invested in the project. And if I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna peter out, and I'm not gonna be invested in it. And if I'm not invested in it, you guys aren't gonna like it. It's just gonna come out kind of soulless and empty.
Yeah, I mean, all of your games are like pretty uniquely you. One thing that I joke around about is that I think that you're pretty much the only like notable game, or Binding of Isaac, actually, like many of your games are the only ones that have just like poop jokes throughout it, right? Like, I can't think of many other ones that have it just like as core of it. And I don't think, I can understand why somebody would be like, oh, maybe that puts people off, but I actually think that it actually might be part of the charm of it, that it is just unabashedly sort of gross, body humor.
For sure. I mean, I'd like to think that, part of me, part of that is my personality, things that I find funny. Yep. Part of it is that in a game like Isaac, there needs to be some comic relief where it's just this awful experience. And I don't want it to be that, I'm all for extremely dark humor, but you need some relief at some point, and a few poop jokes will kind of get you there sometimes. Fun fact, that cutscene when he throws bricks at Brownie was a play on I believe it is Home Alone 2, when he's throwing bricks down at them and hitting them in the head. I really liked that scene a lot as a kid, so I wanted to put it in the game too.
Nice, yeah. There's a lot of cameos in this game. Are there any that you don't think that people like picked? Are there any like truly like hidden ones? Maybe ones that are like even outside of cutscenes or anything?
I mean, the only hidden ones are the ones that are like that. Those Maws. They're a play off of an Earthworm Jim enemy. Oh. Everything in the game, like, I was really heavily being like, well, this is my Mario, and I want to put a little piece of everything that inspired me, as a designer, as an artist, and whatever else. Like, I really want it to be kind of a love letter to so many different things. So it's hard for me not to just do that. Mugenics does it a lot too. I can't help myself.
Nice.
I guess.
With Mugenics as well, one thing, so I know that I've heard you say that there's like Final Fantasy Tactics. What influence in there? Like, are there any other? I guess one of the strategy games that I sort of wonder that is maybe somewhat similar, because the only strategy game that I can think of, strategy RPG, that sort of has these like procedurally generated stuff that you design to play over and over. But Disgaea, is there like any Disgaea influence in that? Or
I never played Disgaea, but more like the game that it's probably the closest to, but it's really not, is XCOM, because it has a similar structure of a home base, randomly generated tactical levels that you bring stuff back to your home base and recruit more guys, use your money to upgrade your facilities and all that sort of stuff. So design wise, I think it's the closest to that, but it is such an amalgamation of different genres. It really comes off unique in that respect.
I remember 12 years ago, maybe more, where it was like Pokemon sort of influence. Is that still in the game as much, or? Oh yeah. I mean, especially when it comes to, in general, if I had to say, so like Meat Boy is my Mario, and Isaac is my Zelda. Mugenics would be my Pokemon. It's close as I can get to something. So it's still very much that. It's still like, gotta catch them all, a million different breeds, the breeding in Pokemon times a billion, all that good stuff. And it's still a strategy tactical game. What in the hell are you doing here? Okay. Yeah. So with this, the death counter only goes up if you actually die. So one thing that I don't like doing, but I will do, is you'll pause in the middle of it and then exit out. The way that I kind of hate it, because I know that it is kind of, it's not cheating, but it's a little bit cheap, and so I don't like to do it, but I will do it sometimes. What I think about it is nobody else has gotten really even close to this. So if I do it, and somebody wants to say like, that's not actually deathless because you did this or this on this level, it's like, okay, you can do it, and then you'll have done it better than me, and I will agree that that's better. Like, same thing right here. Although I wasn't in danger of death, I just want to do the strategy correctly, or else it gets a little bit weird. One thing that I actually am very, very curious about, because I saw that you had tweeted one of the great posters out on Twitter of Dan Henschel to see if you could get a guest voice.
Oh yeah.
Can you confirm if he is in the game or not?
I can confirm he's not, and I can also I can also ask anybody who knows how to get a hold of him for help, because he's just impossible to get a hold of. He doesn't read any responses to his stuff, obviously.
I'll make that my mission. I love
I assume that guys like him that are go in that direction with a sense of humor probably avoid the comments so they don't get sidetracked.
Yeah,
feeling
probably.
like they can't do something
bizarre, whatever he's going these days with his humor.
Yeah, but I would absolutely love to have him for sure. I would love to feature him as a cat that just fucking screams at the top of their lungs constantly.
I would love that.
Totally do it.
Are there any voice anybody who provides voices for that you can talk about right now that you're like really excited about? Or
oh yeah, sure. Me personally, I'm excited about the ones that are like are friends of mine for the most part, like Lloyd Kaufman and Tonetta. Those are really big ones for me that I was really happy when they submitted their meows. I've announced quite a few different ones online. I'm trying to remember which ones I did. I know Logic is a big one. There's a few different really, really famous musicians that happen to be fans of my work or have kids that are fans of my work. So when I reached out to them, they're like, well, my kid says you're legit, so I'm going to do it. And I'm like, fuck, okay.
Nice.
All right, let's do it. At least 5 of the biggest names are people who I happened to message and their kid saw me tweeting, or they asked their kid about who I am. But I don't want to spoil the fun. There's a lot. It's a lot, even to the point where I have a hard time remembering I know the ones in my head that I'm thinking of now, but I don't want to say because they're big spoilery things, and I don't know, it's weird too because I don't want to I don't know. I don't want to lean on that so hard. It's more just fun. Like it's a gag.
Sure.
They're meowing. You're never gonna recognize their voice. Like some of them maybe because they're like specific meowing in very specific ways. Like obviously Rich Evans, you're gonna hear him say "Oh my God" for his cat when he dies. But
Nice.
stuff like that is very apparent. But I would say the biggest names are like playing it real straight. Just cats, and you'd never fucking know who they were.
Nice.
Which
Gotcha.
I think is nice.
It'll be fun going through the credits at least on those, just to see if there's anybody, that that's just like, what? It's that person. That'll be fun.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of people, a lot of streamers caught wind of me doing it, and a lot of them reached out, and it was hard to kind of say no. So there are quite a few big name streamers that are featured for sure.
Nice. Northern Lion?
Yeah, well, he said yes. He's one of the only people who hasn't given me the meows yet, but he's a busy guy, and he promised that he would send everything before.
I'm sure he's very.
The cutoff date.
I haven't really watched his streams, but he's always on like my YouTube Shorts feed, so I'm sure that he's very busy preparing content for my YouTube Shorts feed when I should be going to bed.
Yeah, well, he's also a dad too, so
yeah,
that can take a lot out of you.
I get it. Yeah, I'm a dad myself, so it's yeah, I get it. See from chat. Oh, do you have favorite bands? I guess hardcore punk bands. What?
Hardcore punk bands. My favorite punk band is a band called Fucked Up from
oh, nice.
Canada. I like them all. Great deal. Trying to think, I've been kind of stuck in a loop right now, and I'm gone really deep in repeatedly listening to old Smashing Pumpkins, first two albums, Gish and Siamese Dream, and early B-sides from that era, and Deftones. I've just like, and some Queens of the Stone Age. Like I don't know, I've just been stuck on that, and if I'm not listening to that, I'm listening to oldies, like the oldies hits, and that's probably
nice.
Mostly from Mugenics, since Mugenics is like all oldies
Sure.
themed music. And in order to like find what I want them to reference or be inspired by, or do different genres of, I was digging pretty deep and trying to find all the appropriate sounding oldies. So it kind of opened my ears to a lot of stuff that I don't normally listen to, that I now like, Chuck Berry and stuff like that.
Oh, nice. Yeah, absolutely. When I got super into the Beach Boys like 13 years ago, and then I got really into just like all of the bands that inspired them. So I'm a big oldies fan. But got a donation here from Sandshark. Did you expect SMB to have the legacy it still has 15 years after? And how do you feel about the legacy just in general?
I expected nothing ever for anything I've ever done.
Sure.
No, I absolutely did not expect it in the slightest, and I really didn't expect it while developing it, because a large number of people who I was supposed to respect and trust were saying it's not going to do well. So
interesting.
But I had other people like, John. I remember John Blow was like, "This is going to be huge," and Kyle Gabler of 2D Boy, they were all about it, and it made me nervous to hear them talk. Oh my God, you're doing this.
Yeah.
To hear them talk about the game in that way, it like made me really kind of scared. But all the suits, a majority of the suits at Microsoft were like, this isn't going to sell well. We've run the numbers. It's a 2D platformer. It's too hard. This is not what people like. And
that makes sense. From
otherwise, like I'm a fucking kid. I don't know what I'm doing, and I just feel like, well, I'll take what I can get. But it really made me hustle. Like I hustled the hell out of getting press for this game, and really doing as many interviews as possible. The one rule was I would do literally any interview or podcast that I was asked to be on, including no listeners at all. Nice. Just to kind of make it happen, and did a lot of leg work, and I assume it helped. Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. That is definitely the most likely place to have a death. I can sort of understand where, you know, if you're an executive saying that it wouldn't sell well, but something I find really interesting, especially in retrospect, but that was at the time where people really talked about games aren't Nintendo hard anymore. You know, games just aren't challenging enough anymore.
Sure.
And people would knock on games, and it was even, you know, Demon Souls was out at the time, but that wasn't as big of a deal as...
it wasn't like a mainstream thing. And it wasn't, and I want to make sure people understand, it wasn't like there were these people that were like, listen, your game sucks and it's going to do terribly. It was literally, well, we crunched the numbers and this month we think you're going to do about as good as this game. And then that game that they, well, it was just like, well, that sucks. So our investment in this is gone. Because if that's what we sell, that's terrible. And it just kind of continued like that throughout the end of development. And our producer was all about it, though. Like, he was such a good guy and he was so genuine. And we asked the questions. We said, what do they say? And he's like, you want to... I said, yes. And he told me the truth. And in the end, a lot of those people that said it wasn't going to sell well put it in their resume as one of the reasons why it sold well.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they worked on it and pushed it in the right direction.
I'm glad that it did, because a lot of what this game, I think that it actually has sort of a legacy, unlike even a lot of other indie games, even ones that might have, you know, not that it's the metric that matters most, but even indie games that might have sold more than this. This game just has such a big legacy where I think that you can even see, like, not that this game individually did it, but Super Mario Odyssey, that doesn't have lives anymore. You know, a lot of these ideas that are in the game, not that Meat Boy was the first, but it's going in, it's putting a timer up on the top to where you're encouraging players to, like, play multiple times, getting rid of lives, like the different types of, you know, play styles that it's encouraging. I think that the game really did. There's not a lot of games like it that really did what this game was doing, which I think is probably the most, I need to change characters, most impressive part about it. I guess
to be honest, I'm sure that there were many indie games that were doing exactly what was done in Super Meat Boy. I don't think we did anything new. It was mostly about doing it the way we did it. It was kind of like, a lot of it really was very pure level design. And I'd been making levels for games for 10 years, you know, before this. And I had a lot of experience doing so. And I thought, like, when working on this project, it wasn't like I wasn't trying to take some giant risk. This was what I was betting on. This, like, this was my most accessible characters, my most accessible design. Like, it's a platformer, people understand how to play it, and I'm not really trying to destroy people with this. I wasn't trying to be like, I want to be the guy. Like, I was trying to make a game that was difficult enough that people, I want that feeling of achievement of doing something hard. And I was just playing around with the juxtaposition of short levels. I know you're on a long level now, but most of the levels were very short, kind of bite-sized levels that didn't require a lot of time and investment. So it didn't really crush the player when they died. So you would kind of forget your fuck-ups and remember your wins. And we really punched that up with the multiple Meat Boy thing at the end, which you're not going to ever see.
Right.
But it you know, it was just a lot of little subtle things that I think were elegant and smart and framed the game in a way that a lot of framing themselves like, and it just kind of made it shine.
Yeah, I think unlike a lot of other games that might have done similar things, is that this was just, it was Xbox arcade, you know, big platform. It wasn't that it was doing anything necessarily that nobody else had ever done, but it did it extremely well. And then it actually had, oh my goodness, I'm just going to restart. The buttons there's two buttons sitting on top of each other, and for what you can't press two at the same time. There's like, Nigh goes really fast, so sometimes it'll go between those. I did it twice. Oh my gosh. I'll just go for it once it goes back. Also, once one is pressed, you can't press the other one until it goes back. Got it. Oh, there's a second part in this question as well. Is there anything you would have changed in the Meat Boy level editor? Although Tommy worked on the level editor, actually. So yeah. Is there anything else that you would have liked to see in there, I guess?
No, I was really familiar with that level editor.
Yeah.
Like that was, I don't ever require that much from the engine programmer when it comes to any of that sort of stuff. There's a level editor for every game that I've worked on that has a level in it, and they're always pretty bare bones. Like I don't need much, and I'm not usually thinking about other people using it, so I just get what I want. I requested whatever I requested in the beginning was added. More than that, and I just have to get creative with what I have. That's how I usually do it.
Nice. Want to shout out, thanks Games Done Quick for the raid. Appreciate it. Hello everybody. I'm Shredberg. We got creator of Super Meat Boy, Binding of Isaac, the upcoming Mugenics, several other games as well. The End is Nigh. Here we're talking to him, and we're raising money for SGDQ 2025. So with ! donate, you can donate. It goes directly to Doctors Without Borders and the SGDQ 2025 donation total as well. So you can donate right now and help raise money for Doctors Without Borders. All right, we got through that. $25 from Calc. No comment. Thank you so much, Calcputer. Appreciate that. $10 from Bree. Did you have a Brat Summer last year? Thank you, Bree. Did you have a Brat Summer?
What do the kids mean by Brat Summer?
Are you aware of Charlie XCX? She released an album called Brat, and people really liked it.
My 9-year-old daughter listens to one of those songs. I've
go.
seen the cover. It's green, right? It says Brat on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take that as not a Brat Summer. Not a Brat Summer.
What does it mean?
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know. I just know that people talked about Brat Summer. People could probably give you some sort of answer. I don't know.
All right, I had a super fucking Brat Summer.
Hell yeah. Love to hear that. With the bosses in this game, we're coming up on, well, I guess it's probably like 2-3 minutes away. You're going into every speedrunner's least favorite boss, Larry, which is just RNG. It kills 90% of runs, whatever. It's fine. It's not a big deal.
I'm sorry. Like quite honestly, the reason why the bosses were there was because I wanted to do cutscenes, and I needed something to do a cutscene about, and I just needed to do that. And the few interesting bosses, usually like quite honestly, I think Brownie and Dr. Fetus were the most interesting ones, simply because it's just me. You're playing against me, which I think is kind of neat. But the bosses are just last minute. Like it really was like, well, what are we gonna do? We don't have time. We got to throw something together. And I just pulled whatever I could out of my ass with stuff that already existed. And in the end, it was easily the weakest part of this game's design.
Sure, I think Brownie is like kind of a banger, and Little Sluggers, actually Chad's fine too. I think that honestly the bosses are not that bad. I get that it is probably the weakest part, but
they aren't bosses really.
Sure.
They're just levels. They're just levels, and that's fine, you know. But you know, if I would have ever somehow magically have the ability to make another Meat Boy, I would make good bosses. That's for sure.
Nice. Do you have actually? I need to get behind these saws really quick.
Yes, go for it. Do your thing.
It's not actually difficult, but it always scares me that I'm gonna die on there. Just because it's almost more stressful to do something that is relatively easy. Because if you mess up, you feel worse. If it's really hard, it's like, oh, yeah, I died to that. Of course I did. That was good RNG.
I'm playing Baby Steps right now. I'm in the beta, and I love that. And
nice.
It's quite literally like you'll be doing something really, get a trophy, and then just the next few steps you take on flat ground, you're just falling. It's just like, oh god. But that's why it's fun.
Obviously you're finishing up a game that you're working on and everything, so I'm sure that your mind is mostly on that, but do you have any plans of going back to a platformer or anything in the near future? Do you have any plans for that? Any ideas that you're sort of cooking up on with just platformers?
So I have to will myself to not think about new game ideas because then I get really excited and I lose focus on what I'm working on.
That makes sense.
So I have to like push the thoughts away. But yeah, no, I'm positive that I'll make another platform eventually. What that'll be, I don't know. I'd like to do something more rapid fire like Meat Boy, something really fast and not as depressing as The End is Nigh, which could be The End is Nigh 2. You know, I don't fuck.
Nice.
It could be a lot of things, but it would need to warrant the time. So I would have to fall in love with a specific platforming mechanic that I really like to want to really jump in.
Gotcha.
I kind of like, part of me, like so many people were thrown, I'm looking at this gray ass level, were thrown by the gray tones in Mugenics and, you know, asking why the game's so ugly, etc. And I like, something in me wants to make a really obnoxiously bright, shiny, stupidly happy, horribly difficult platformer.
Sure.
So who knows? Maybe we'll go that direct point.
Yeah, I hope so as well. Are there any bosses that if you had time that you would have wanted to add or done differently in this?
I'm trying to think if there were any. I'm trying to think. There were a few bosses that I thought about and sketched. So there were a few bosses that were really old designs. One of which was the Duke of Flies, that I thought about maybe bringing into this, but it would mean designing enemies that were flies that would fly all over in a specific pattern, that sort of stuff. There was another boss called Boris, who ended up in Mugenics, that I thought about using, but it was more of like, oh, I have these characters from way back when, around the same time I designed Dark and Meat Boy, that I thought were really neat designs, and I thought, oh, I could explore this.
Gotcha.
But in the end, I kind of had to go with the mechanics that we already had.
Sure, makes sense. With Tofu Boy, someone brings Tofu Boy in chat. I have a question on Tofu Boy. Is this just a rumor, or did you sort of egg on PETA into creating Tofu Boy? What's the story there? I had heard that you maybe went to a forum or something.
Yeah, I full on made fake accounts on their forums to make sure that they were very aware of this Meat Boy game, because they were protesting so many games at that point.
Yeah.
And I didn't think anything would happen. I was extremely happy when I saw that. I just couldn't believe it. It was such an amazing opportunity. And the moment we saw it, it was just like riffing back on Twitter and, you know, mocking them back, which was easy.
Yeah.
But also a lot of fun.
Has to be nice.
It was definitely like a bucket list thing. It was kind of a surreal moment. Sure. I did not think it would happen, but I did put the legwork in. I did troll the forums and make sure that they knew about it. Like I said, like I hustled my ass off. I put it everywhere I possibly could, in any way, and I knew how. And that was one of the ways, and it paid out.
Yeah, that's awesome. When I first had heard of Tofu Boy, just like in general on this, I'm just like, that doesn't make sense. Meat Boy is like, it's not even necessarily like meat. It's supposed to be like a boy without skin or whatever. And it's just like, okay, whatever, it doesn't matter. PETA will do whatever they will do for attention anyways. It's not like they have. Sure.
I don't even know. I've heard from other people when I've said exactly what you're saying, that that's not true anymore. So I don't know. Meat Boy may be made of beef at this point.
Interesting. Gotcha. I know so little about. Sometimes people will ask me questions about whatever lore stuff, and it's like, I don't ask me like mechanical questions. I could probably answer. I don't know. I'm not the right person for that. Camdrome is an interesting one. This is one where people have asked me about this in terms of like, oh, you should ask Edmund about Camdrome. Have you thought about working on Camdrome again?
I have, you know, and I don't want to get anybody excited, but I was recently talking to Hunter, Papa Meat, or Meat Canyon, and the topic of Camdrome came up, and I want to revisit it. The thing that people don't know about is that the guy who actually helped us film all the stuff for Cam Jerome. He actually passed away, and I don't think we can even use that old stuff. Like, it would need to be completely remade and refilmed. I'm not against that at all, especially when working with the right person. But I have a feeling that Cam Jerome will happen for sure, but probably not for a few years.
Gotcha. I mean, got Mugenics as well to work on and all that as well. With what did come for, so with Binding of Isaac, one of the things that I remember, and it got me to play Binding of Isaac even more than I had already done it, because that game was, I know there's a little bit of irony because I'm here playing this trying to beat it without dying, but it was a little bit too hard for me, so I just kind of bounced out of it. But oh my goodness, I'm forgetting what my question was gonna. Let me get through this level really quick.
I remember it. I can tell you that Meat Boy is a lot harder than
Oh, the ARG with Binding of Isaac. I remember the whole thing with Reddit on there. Which one came? Was it Binding of Isaac that came first in that ARG, or was it Cam Jerome, or what? What's sort of your desire to make ARG type
I think
stuff?
Cam Jerome was first, and the Isaac ARG was like for a later. It wasn't like with the original Binding of Isaac. It was after I had left Team Meat at that point. But yeah, that was both a lot of fun and also terrible at some points. But it was kind of scary. Like, I didn't realize what I was getting.
Oh, sure.
The legality of like sending people around LA in the middle of the night, digging by the sidewalk. Like, there was a point where because we had to constantly watch what people were doing, and one of the things that we had to do was stop people from going into a place that just happened to have cultish imagery in the window that seemed like the Binding of Isaac, and go inside, and they're like, no, we have to break the fourth wall here and stop you because you're going into somebody's store.
Did you, when you were putting through that, I would imagine you never considered anything like that would pop up, or did you? That's
nope. I'm stupidly just blindly going for it, just thinking, oh, everything's gonna be great. And then, like, looking back, like, I sent people across like a really dangerous rickety trestle bridge in Santa Cruz, like reaching out over gaps to find these pieces of missing posters and all this stupid stuff. But I'm glad nobody got hurt. I know what not to do next time if I end up doing anything like that. But it was interesting when it happened. It was fun to kind of make something like that for people, and I got to meet a lot of fans in person.
Oh, nice. Did that? Because I remember it just being huge, just on Reddit. Of you could be on like all posts, and that would be near the top. Did you expect it to be like as big as that had gotten? I remember at the time that there was a bunch of like it's not Pokemon Go, but it's the same idea of Pokemon Go, where the cache or whatever, I forget what it's, geocache or whatever.
Geocache. Yeah.
Did you expect it to have even close to the amount of people interested in the game or I guess the ARG part of that as people were?
No, it was kind of surprising, but I'm glad it happened. I was actually involved in the Portal ARG, which is kind of where I was inspired by. There was a Portal ARG, and I got to do one piece of it in Santa Cruz, nice. Which was just exciting. It's really fun to incorporate real stuff into the game, and you might, when appropriate, I'd love to do it again, but it's hard to find the appropriate time to kind of do stuff like that. But I think it's the way to do secret content in a game, where it's like, well, we're gonna do this thing in real life that you can't data mine, because we're doing it in real life, and once you finish that, then we'll unlock something in an update or whatever.
Nice.
I think that's really cool, and that's kind of like the way to go.
Yeah, sure. There's a couple games where I'm thinking of where they had like big surprises, but they sort of were maybe like Celeste, if you get to all the way to the end in their DLC with the golden berry, so it's getting through that deathless, it brings you to this like completely separate room. You can only get it if you have the berry, but people were able to practice it before they got there because you can just go to the debug, which, I think it would have been cooler if they didn't know, but I also want to be respectful of your time, so any time that you want to take off as well. free to do so as well. I really do appreciate you coming on as well.
I think I can make it to the end of this with you.
Perfect. Sounds good. I should have looked to see if there was any other donations on this one, but are there any things like that where you have any like secrets that you wanted to put in, like Isaac, that ended up being bounced, you know, didn't end up getting included, that you would have really loved to see?
Every idea I have for Isaac gets in the game. There's nothing that's like, I don't know if that's just how I work. I when people ask the question, I kind of think like, wait, should I have more restraint when it comes to these things? But for me, and it's the same thing with like Mugenics, like with Mugenics, the stuff that doesn't make it in will make it into the, like we kind of have that cutoff point where it's like, okay, we have all these really cool ideas and things to explore. We got to save it for DLC because there's no way we can get it on time. That sort of stuff, totally. Everything else, it's like, no, like whatever idea I had, we put it in the game, and anything that would make it on the chopping block, I was aware would before I invested time and effort into it.
Sure.
So it's kind of like, no.
Makes sense to me. I mean, with the Binding of Isaac, all those DLCs, again, I'm not that big of an Isaac person. Oh my gosh, that's the easiest part of that level. Whatever. I'm not that big of an Isaac guy. I'll play it, but I know that whenever I do, with every single update, it's like there's just a ton of things in there. So I can't imagine there's too much content that's just like completely cut out of that. Man, this one is, I was saying earlier about how it's the easy ones that can be more frustrating, because that one you're just,
this one's annoying because you have to wait.
Yeah.
I remember running this level and being like, ugh, this fucking, like, it was too hard to like just change the trajectory of these damn things and then have to like run the level repeatedly to test and see like, well, does this make it harder or less hard? And in the end, I'm just like, fuck it, people will deal.
Yeah.
It's just how it is.
So when you were doing those with this, what were, I guess, your favorite levels, and then which ones were the ones that, not least favorite, but I guess hardest, most frustrating? Maybe excluding Kid on that one, because it's a very easy
to make,
just to play through when you were going through those. But I guess maybe to make
a lot of these, like the ones that you know that are, because I had a few rules of like, I'm not gonna shortcut spawn points anywhere. Like, I need to legitly do this so I know that it's doable and not a total killer. But yeah, nothing specific comes to mind other than the stuff we talked about.
Nice.
I like these kind of levels that kind of push you along. I like the ones where you have to make a lot of really rapid, fast movements. There's a level, I think, in the Rapture where you have to hit a button and then run across and do like a bunch of up down kind of jumps, which was a play on a specific level in Mario 2, where you have to like slide along and like duck and jump to avoid being hit by all these different fly guys. I really love that level a lot, and I was hugely inspired by it, for sure.
Now that you say it, I can see that, because I know that you're talking about 5.5x on that one. I can see it. One of the only levels that I was able to be like, oh, that's influenced by, you know, this game was, well, actually there's a couple, but one of them is it was like 3 or 4 levels ago where it's Master Blaster is the name of the level, but I think it was very similar to a level in N where you like go up and around and sort of spiral into the beginning. At least I assume that's a reference because it's extremely similar to it.
It might be. I don't remember for sure. I did play a lot of N.
Gotcha. Yeah, I assume that you don't remember everything from 15 years ago, basically.
It's kind of a lot of it comes back watching it, of course, but
yeah.
It's interesting to kind of go back and be like, what was I doing, or like kind of be surprised, like, oh, that was smart. good job, me. Just going back, looking and being impressed by yourself. That's I was like, okay. I mean, seeing this stuff does make me want to make it like not feel that way. I really like what I did here. You know, one thing here, I'll say this. one of the things that was lost to time was the internet's had a remix of a bunch of really difficult levels. They were like ultra dark world levels, and I designed the hell out of those things, and I really liked those levels, and I think they were just kind of lost to time.
They sort of are. There's people that know way more about they're really into the custom level stuff. I believe for the most part they're still there. I know for sure the forest one and the salt factory one still are there and exist, but yeah, I'm not 100% sure on those. I always tell myself I should play more of those. There was a point where I played through all of them, and they are awesome. They're really, really tough. Talking about expert remix, I think so. What's up, Prep?
Yeah, if I could go back and like be like, oh, like obviously I'll do this DLC, I would remix the whole thing and do like an ultra dark mode for every single level. That would have been a lot of fun to do.
Nice. Oh man, this level.
I just didn't think that people were going to be down with that.
Oh sure.
So like it was hard enough as it is for most people. I don't think that many people were going to play the whole game on ultra hard.
Yeah, I do wonder how many people went and did the internets and was it called something different? I forget. I think on Xbox and then on Steam they're called two different things, but I don't know.
I think it's internets.
Could be.
I could be wrong, and I'm pretty sure I made a few packs that I think were pretty good, but. Leave that to the experts to remember.
Sure.
I have a vague memory of doing these things.
Yeah, Kids Christmas was an interesting one because I do that one relatively frequently because you need that for all of the achievements in the game, and that one is pretty tough. I like how short it is my favorite part of that one, but that one's cool. Was that one designed by you, or was that designed by somebody else in there and then added as an achievement?
If it was added as an achievement, I made it. I'm pretty sure.
Gotcha. That's what I thought. I just was not sure on those at all. Is there any spewer references in Mugenics? Mass is asking.
Maybe. I would say that there is a reference to every single game I've ever made in
oh, nice. Okay.
It is the thing that will connect so many of my games together in so many interesting ways. I think it has a lot of fanfare. I think if you're a fan of my work and know a lot of my IPs, that you will be pleasantly surprised.
Interesting. Nice. That's good to hear.
Of dot connecting that I am doing throughout.
Nice. Got $15 from Ace Bats, hell yeah, Camdrome as well. Thank you, Ace Bats, for that one. And then $5 from Math Crab. How do you feel about the indie landscape today compared to 2010? In particular, do you miss Flash and the culture of quick, low-effort, freeware game dev associated with it?
I have to. There's got to still be a scene of like game maker games or some shorthand type game jam games that are out there that isn't just super in your face. I mean, I know people are still uploading stuff to Newgrounds. It sucks to not have such a super easy way to do things like Flash, but yeah. This is the level I was kind of talking about.
Yeah, this one, it's a great level, very hard though.
Yeah, yeah, it's a strange scene because there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of people making a lot of games. But I don't know. There's the games that shine really bright, and like I said, I've been playtesting Baby Steps, and I think that's going to be a major banger that people are going to absolutely love. And it's kind of cool because Bennett came from the same era that I did, and games like UFO 50, like from Derek and stuff, like all these old school 40 plus old men who have been making games for far too long are having, I wouldn't say final hurrahs, but a hurrah. We're having hurrahs, and it's kind of cool to kind of see it. And I know quite a few other old school indies that are working on some really interesting things, and it's cool to be able to kind of do that.
Yeah, I think one thing about that in terms of just like the indie landscape, in terms of it seeming like there's not as much in terms of like Flash and stuff, because there's people that make games with like Pico 8 and, you know, Game Maker, all of these sort of like quick, I don't want to say low effort, but low time at least, things where it's just prototype to completed project really quick. I think that it's just a little bit more segmented than it was. I think back in the day, there's just this idea of if something was happening and it was really cool, you sort of would know about it. And then now there's too much going on. There's too many things happening to where you're just, you know, not aware unless it becomes like a big deal. There's a bunch of, you know, in the puzzle game scene, there's a bunch of really cool games that are going on all the time that they pop up, and that niche is really big. But if you talk to somebody outside of, you know, paying attention to puzzle game dev, they might never have heard of it unless it's something that like really pops out, like Patrick's Parabox or something.
Speaking of which, I know that John Blow is working on a obviously very in-depth, advanced block pushing type game that hopefully we will see soon.
Looking forward to that. That'll be cool. Yeah, it really has been since Witness for him, because he re-released the Braid, but has been since the Witness, which that was also between Braid and the Witness was a pretty decent amount of time, which, you know, especially with indie devs, you know, if they can take their time, I always love that, because it ends up being just a much better product overall.
Yeah, I can tell you from experience, devs don't like it though. No one wants to be working on something for 6+ years. Like, I'm extremely grateful at the fact that I've been working on Mugenics almost full time for 6 years, and I've never gotten sick of it. In fact, I'm more excited than ever to work on it day to day. It's nice to be able to do that, but usually when you're working on a project for you are wanting it to be out years before, and I would love to avoid big projects for a little while. I want to make shorthand stuff again. I want to make fun little nonsense games, but the climate is the way it is. Like, when you talk about like times Flash was around when you could make short, cool experiments, but people are doing that, but they're doing it on big scales, and there are like 30+ games coming in on Steam every day. It's like that is where Flash moved.
Yeah,
it's people that are just investing a shitload more time, and with a much higher possible outcome. You know, like, you could be the next Balatro, or you can be a game that just fades into nothingness after one day.
Yeah, one thing that I do wonder as well, there's a lot of this idea that, like, you know, the truly great games rise to the top, but I do wonder with games like Balatro, where that's like one of my favorite games to come out in a long time. It's just like, whoa, like a perfect game, I think. But I wonder how many like Balatros are just out there just waiting for an audience, you know, with just how many games are coming out.
I'd like to think that there isn't one, because I'd like to think with the internet the way it is, it will be shown. It will shine, and people will tell their friends about it. Like, people won't just like keep these things to themselves. Like, one of the reasons why a lot of classic roguelikes, like, or real original roguelike games were underground, was because they were so inaccessible, but the designs were so spectacular. It was like, oh, this is the coolest shit ever. Like, I remember playing those games and being like, people don't know about this because it's incredibly ugly, and like the learning curve is insane. Like, you've got to really research on how these things work so you can understand how to play them. They're just not accessible. So there's a chance that those things are hidden somewhere. Oh yeah, it was Jason Rohrer. Somewhere on the internet for sure, but I think, you know, who knows? Like,
sure, yeah.
I'd still like to believe that for the most part, the way the internet works is if something is good and worth your time, it really does go to the top. Like, and everybody ends up playing.
Sure, and there's a lot of examples of games where, you know, they have been out for weeks, or they were in like early access for a while, then it comes out and the game explodes, you know, small dev teams. There's actually a lot of talk about small dev teams recently. Do you have any opinions? Obviously, you've only worked really on small dev team games. What's your sort of, do you have any opinions on the sort of like focus that people have had on that recently?
On just small devs for mainstream games?
Just in general, I do think that it's sort of going in on mainstream games, right? With like, what's it, Expedition 33 or whatever it's called. But I do think that just in general, people with like Balatro are sort of pointing in on like these small devs and just saying this might be sort of like the future outside of AAA. You have still your tentpole AAA stuff, but other ones needing to just be smaller studios, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is to be indie, though. That's kind of the way it's been and the way it hopefully will always be. The fact of the matter is when you are only beholden to yourself or one other person, you can do whatever you want, and you will have complete creative freedom to do whatever, and you don't have to worry about the risks involved. And when you have that freedom, there's a higher probability of huge success of making something that is a genre defining, that is very bold, interesting, and scratches all the itches that people don't even realize they need. And that's where the Balatro is. That's where every good game left field that everybody wants to play, that's where it all is. Like that's 100% where it is. And the only way to do that, it rarely happens with AAA studios. Nintendo used to do it because they used to take really kind of bold directions with their games. Not so much anymore. They've been playing it pretty safe, and that usually comes with the climate financially. You'll see AAA studios not taking big risks when things aren't as viable. You know, when a game's investment takes so much money that if the game doesn't do well, your whole company fails. Like, that's the sort of shit that people are having to deal with. But when you're indie and you know how to live cheap, you're not really it doesn't cost that much money to make these games. Like, you're not taking a huge risk. So you can hopefully do something that's really out of the box, really risky, and possibly genre defining. The indies will always come up with the really crazy new stuff. That'll always be the case because we can do that, because we don't have to worry about failing. Because if we fail, we didn't invest a huge amount of money and time. And you see it every year. Every year there's a new indie game that nobody knew they.
Yeah, one thing I'm seeing in the people in the chat are talking about sort of speedruns and Celeste and how they heard about things, and speedrunning does really help with word of mouth on that one. But speedrunning when this game came out was a pretty niche thing. It wasn't even really all that big. There's a very small group of people that were doing it. But were you aware of even the concept, or did you just like the idea of go fast, get a timer? Oh, actually, I can't play it like this.
No, I was definitely always aware of the concept. I mean, people were speedrunning games. I used to work with this guy's named Alex Austin, and I made Gish with him. And he used to try to like speedrun the original Mario, but trying to get the least amount of coins possible.
Nice.
So it's like, when you work in games and you play games, you're gonna know people who are speedrunning always. You know, from the 90s.
Yeah.
With the internet, of course, people find each other, and but speedrunning has always existed for sure.
Did that come into any sort of? There's definitely levels, and just in terms of platformer level design, you want to reward a player by going fast. But outside of even that, was there any idea of making a game that would be fun to speedrun, I guess, to just put it broadly?
Not so much traditional like the way you're doing it, but we're keeping track of your overall like each of the levels, so your overall all time goes down, and you can replay levels and try to shave off a few seconds here and there. I thought that's how people would try to, in quote, speedrun the game. to try to beat it with the small amount of time as possible. But in the end, people don't do that at all. They just do this.
I think that
that's all that really matters.
What's interesting is that style of speedrunning was probably the most popular until live streaming came about.
Yeah,
Maybe not
sense.
the most popular, but it was more popular than it is now. And now doing like individual levels and then like segmenting and being like, oh, here's all of my times combined is much more of a niche, which is really interesting. I think that just people want to see full games be ran, and then people will tend to just gravitate towards wanting to see the full game, and so that makes it more interesting. But it's something that I've noticed over time that has actually changed in speedrunning, that like segmented runs aren't really as big as they used to be. Not that people don't do it still, but that at the time of the game coming out, it was probably actually true that, whatever, not reset. It's supposed to line up to be right at the top there. If it hasn't been asked why 106, I mean, I think I can answer that, because the 1% just comes from the glitch levels and 100% is everything else. But was there an idea of why it was 106, or did it just happen to be because
No,
of
it was
what I just said?
accidental. It just happened and we just left it. We're going beyond 100%. We thought it was funny and we left it in.
Yeah. I do love when games have more than 100%. Especially for speedrunning, there's like, I don't want to say necessarily camaraderie, but it's fun because there's like a Hollow Knight will have like a 106%, and Spyro has it, and others where people bring up 106, and I'm like, wait, you're not talking about the right game right now. You're talking about Spyro the Dragon. That's not correct, but that's one of my two favorite things in games, is when they go over 100%, and then when they say thank you for playing at the end of the credits. Those are the two things that make me like, let's go, hell yeah. Back to Heaven. That's that. I know Back to Heaven. Fez is like 209, yeah. Have there any games that you've been playing recently that you have really been enjoying?
Video game wise, I've been playing Baby Steps. That's like the one game I'm doing. Like, for me, I'm not like super hardcore when it comes to frustrating stuff like that. But I really enjoy spending 15 minutes here and there on some of the hard stuff and then kind of exploring. I really like it, but it's not going to be out for a few months.
Gotcha. Is that one this year? Does that have a date, chat? Do you know?
I think it's September.
Ooh, nice.
I'm not sure if there's a date.
I'm really, when it comes to those types
demo
of...
got, though. You can play the demo.
I almost like stay away from demos most of the time, because I just want to... Unless it's a game where it's like an RPG and the progress like stays with you and you're just playing like the beginning of the game. I just like to, sometimes what happens is like I play it, I have too much fun, and then I'm just like, well, now I gotta wait until the game.
I can understand that. I'm not a demo person. The only demo I've ever played that I enjoyed, that I felt like really sold me on the game, was the Fallout demo, and that was because it was its own game that had nothing to do, wasn't in the game at all. It was just this tiny little town where you could do a handful of things, and it just showed you that you had the freedom to do whatever you wanted. If you wanted to just kill everybody in the town, you could. If you wanted to do all their missions, you could. And it was like not really done in a lot of video games at that point. I thought that was really cool. I think that's really the way to do a demo, but it takes so much time and effort to make a whole new little mini in order to sell something. But that said, I think the Baby Steps demo will show you instantly and funny. It's like such a funny game.
You know, actually, with demos, it reminds me on this one is that there's a way you can access it. I don't remember how. Nice, we got Glitch Girl. This game never had a released demo, but you can actually get a file that has a demo in there that has 10 levels. Do you remember anything about that?
Yeah, that was our demo for it was probably for the Nintendo Wii. We had a public demo that we showed, I think, twice publicly. Maybe
Gotcha.
three times. And that's where those 10 levels come from.
Interesting. Okay.
It culminated with the ultimate level was the second to last level in the forest.
Yeah.
The long one. I think it was second to last. That was like the big one that usually you would see the whole wall of Meat Boys when somebody finally finished it.
whose idea, where, or I guess not whose, but where did the idea come from with the trailing Meat Boy on replays? Because that to me is like, maybe it had happened before, but
there was a video or a mod or something called Quantum Mario, where it was literally what we did, but it was, they put it in Mario where it showed like every single run at once, and I thought it was really cool. And I just asked Tommy, "Do you think you could like do that?" And he's like, "Yep," and he put it in, and that was that. So it all just came from the Quantum Mario.
That's really good. That I think that was when I first saw this game, was the thing that really sold me, was just like, whoa, that's cool. That, I bet that's gonna look really, and then, you know, you get to further into forest. Whoa. And it's really cool when you see like more than just like one or two. You see like a dozen or 20 or whatever all going in and dying on the same saw and all of that.
Oh my god.
Oh,
This is crazy.
Nope, I'm gonna die.
I don't know where they
Messed
all
up my strap.
Oh my god. Yeah,
What
am I hearing?
rob me.
That's probably my my sub noise. Thank you so much. And then XXXX.
It sounded like somebody outside.
It was so it's from a video of
an
an old guy feeding hot dogs to a bunch of raccoons outside of his house, which I highly recommend just looking up old guy feeding hot dogs to raccoons. It is, I love that video. I could be in the best mood possible, and that's gonna make my day even better. It's just so just an old guy feeding hot dogs to raccoons, and the raccoons are absolutely loving it. So that's where that one's from. I was hoping that that didn't get kicked through, but I wasn't sure. Okay, come on. Ah. All right. This level in particular is, these rockets are a little inconsistent, so.
I've got like 10 more minutes, and
Okay.
then I gotta split.
Yeah, gotcha. That'll probably get to the end of Salt Factory there, because the way that this is routed is I put like I want to get to Cotton Alley like as quickly as I can, because that's the hardest part. And in theory, I don't know if it actually works this way because of like the human mind, but in theory, if you put the hardest stuff like closer together and you have the same amount of runs, you'll do it in less time. The amount of runs should stay the same in theory, but the amount of time that it takes to get there, because you'll reset earlier and so you can do more attempts, is the thought behind it. Whether or not it's true because of like psychology in it is one thing, but that's the idea of this one. But yeah, again, as well, chat, we are raising money here for SGDQ 2025 and Doctors Without Borders. So Edmund's got to run in just a minute, so if you have any questions as well, now is the time. And the easiest way to get your questions read is to donate. You can do !donate to get the link. I also think it's in the pinned message as well. Question: what is Ash's birthday? That's a very specific question. Oh, do you know?
I think he does have a birthday, and I can't say, because if I say, you'll know something. Mugenics.
Interesting. Okay. Well, more reason to play Mugenics then. Yeah, whoever asked earlier about if there was a reference in Mugenics to whatever game is. I mean, it seems like there truly is a reference to every game in there.
I've publicly said that Mugenics takes place after the Binding of Isaac in the same town where Binding of Isaac took place, but before the end is nigh, and it'll connect a few games. Even Time Fuck is connected in there as well.
Nice, that's cool. Always love to see like the connection between different games and putting it in there, and just like how all of that stuff works as well. Let's see, let me get through this end of this level it's easy, but in a way that it's not easy, it's easy for me kind of thing. Do you have any favorites? I guess actually, do you have any favorite songs from this game? Do you have any favorite songs from, what's your favorite songs in general from games that you have made?
I like all the songs in this. All the Meat Boy songs are really good. Specifically, I think The Hospital is my favorite track.
Nice.
With maybe Hell being second. I do like them all. They're all really good and perfect for the game. They fit really well. I like a lot of the new Binding of Isaac tracks. I feel like Ridiculon has gotten better with time overall. And I will say that Mugenics has the best music in any game I've ever worked on, and definitely Ridiculon's best work by far. It is astoundingly good. Like, I think a lot of people will be listening to the game soundtrack just casually because it's such a great soundtrack. Like, it's perfect oldies. Like, it covers every genre from way back when in so many different ways, and so cool. Like, such range overall.
Where did the idea come from to make that sort of oldies as well? As it did, I guess, just the themes of the game. All the trailers sort of have that style. Where did?
Yeah. Well, it was before Cuphead. So before Cuphead, I game that like an cartoon. That was where it started. It was like a 1940s cartoon. And then Cuphead did it, and they did it so well that there was no way So when I remade the game with Tyler, I even pulled away from that aesthetic for a while, and it was just like, okay, well, I want to do like just a kind of a grayscale type game. Then I started to pull color in, and it looked appealing to me. And then we finally, I'm like, well, fuck it, let's just put in the TV, you know, old staticky film grain effect and see how it looks. And it looked great, and kind of really brought it all together. But you know, I'm kind of, it's like an oldie time feel to it, almost post-apocalyptic oldie time, kind of like Fallout. There's that like atomic retro aesthetic throughout, and it felt appropriate to utilize songs from that time for the most part. And I think a lot of the songs really sound and feel like songs from that time.
Okay, I have one last question for you. First, I want to thanks MKLM for the $10 donation, but the Mugenics trailer, not the one that just came out, but the one that came out like a few months ago, that was a little bit more like, whose idea was that? I want to know, because I watched not the music video, it was the one with, it was like live action, a lot of like action going on, people dressed as cats.
Yeah, it's a music video.
Oh, it is? Okay, yeah. I guess it is a music video. Yes, that one. Whose idea was that one? That was one of the most bizarre videos, or not video trailers, that I have ever seen.
Oh, you know, that was Flynn's idea. He did the trailer, and it was absolutely beautiful. And he was just kind of a random fan that was. I make movies, and I would love to do a trailer for you. And I looked at his work, and there was just something about his enthusiasm that I really liked. And I'm like, all right, sure. And he really brought it. He brought it hard, and he really made something very impressive. It is overall very amazing.
It is one of the most memorable trailers I've ever seen. I don't think that there's another trailer out there like it. Is really what I can say about that one.
I get a lot of personal enjoyment working with other artists and letting them just kind of do what they do with my work. And, you know, I don't try to completely control every little bit of it. You know, there's a reason why I'm not doing it myself. And working with Flynn was really cool. Working with Meat Canyon was really fun. I have a feeling there will be more trailers in the future.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on here as well and helping us raise some money for GDQ as well. Yeah, I'll let you get going with your night. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was a nice trip down memory lane, and your gameplay is impressive. You're very quick.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Don't tell the girls.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. Thank you thanks you for being on. Do you have any last thing that you have to say before we end this?
That I have to legally say?
Yeah.
all opinions expressed in this are my own.
Yeah. Okay.
Mugenics is really cool. Best game I've ever made. I think a lot of people may also feel the same.
Wishlist on Steam.
Yeah, sure. Wishlisted on Steam, so you can get updates on the dev blog. We update every month. We're going to probably be this month or at the end of this month. And then after that, I think we're going to start showing some actual gameplay and explaining how the game plays. And it comes out in February next year.
Nice.
Until then, we're just going to fucking go nuts and keep building this monster out.
Oh yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, again, chat, go wishlist that on Steam. The game looks awesome. And again, thanks for coming on. I'll leave you to it.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Yep. All right. Let me make sure. Let me get all this. I think actually for the most part here, I have everything still set up with that. But that was awesome. That was really cool. Really appreciate Edmund coming on. Got a lot of questions that I have been wondering for years. Answered there. Who's that guy on the corner? Yeah, it was a friend. Just somebody, some rando. I guess I can actually keep this one on there. Yeah, let's just finish this run as well. And if we haven't, I also, would I die twice? 3 times. I mean, in fairness, actually, I had to reset a bunch of levels, so it wasn't that clean, actually. Platform, small, underground indie developer, yeah, absolutely. I need to turn on my air conditioner. It was getting really hot in here. It still is. Oh, that's downstairs. Upstairs. Yeah, it's 82 degrees in here. Too hot. Yeah, let's just finish this run. But yeah, glad that we could. We're gonna do after this, because we meet the incentive. We're gonna do a blindfolded, which is really gonna be a. No, I have a. Oh my gosh, I died. I don't know why I did that. I've distracted myself. The first thing is I do this with Nigh. The second thing is that's not the strat. I don't know what I'm doing. Whatever. I just got distracted. It's whatever. Let's get a sub 5 though. But yeah, for anybody as well, I didn't really explain much of the tech, but if you have any questions as well, now's a much better time to ask, you know, where I wanted that one to be more Edmund focused. But the plan for this stream is we're going to do another run of this after we do blindfolded light forests as well. And then also coming up on this, if we can get to $500 by really by the end of next week, we'll do a PS5 all achievements playthrough as well on that one, which will be a world record attempt as well. I have never done it. It's really never been attempted for a one sitting thing, so that will be fun. And again, welcome everybody from, you know, if you came here from Edmund tweeting it out that he's going to be on here, or if you came from the GDQ raid, or if you're always here, thanks for coming here. Again, all month long, but especially tonight, we are raising money for Doctors Without Borders and SGDQ 2025. Well, we're raising money for Doctors Without Borders through SGDQ 2025. Oh, nice, we got Glitch Girl. So every dollar that you donate here goes directly to the SGDQ 2025 total, but most of all goes to Doctors Without Borders. So every dollar you donate helps and goes out to a good cause. We'll have more of that as well. I have an idea for what we're going to do as well on the next Deathless attempts, where I have a feeling that I will have a lot more deaths than this one. But we'll see how that goes. Let's just finish this run out first, and then we'll get there. Can afford for $5. Yeah, I mean, if however much you can do, like even a $5 donation on there goes actually a really long way. Donations, large and small, help. So nothing is too little, unless the donation tracker says there's a minimum amount, in which case that minimum. Okay, the minimum is even $1 goes and helps, so. So crazy to see Edmund on stream, yeah. It was crazy. I reached out to him and I mean, you're in my Discord, pal, you know. I was just like, do you think that he'll do this? And he was like, yeah, sure, why not? Really cool. Really awesome that you're able to do that. It's impressive. Yeah. The thing that I will say is I can get 3, 4, 5 death runs without really, like a 6 death run is pretty bad at this point, which is wild. Like, I mean, you're here all the time. You've seen it. $15 for pronouncing your alias the most unique way, which is how it's pronounced. Okay, here's the thing. That's from $15 from MKLM. I was gonna say MKLM, and then I was like, that can't be right. Is it oh? And it was only because I was able to read it at the side of my eye because of because Edmund was talking about doing his thing. Oh, this is the wrong route. What's up, Shovel Claws? Yeah, thanks everybody that followed and rated during that as well. Obviously could not be as interactive with chat during that. I did of course take questions from that, but you know, normally I'm going and responding to most messages, but I'm too smart. That's right. My brain is too big. I saw like a few people in there who were like, oh, it's crazy that you can read and like speed run, you know, deathless run all at the same time. Must be a great reader. No. Not really. At $250 now. Let's go. Halfway to PS5 all achievements. But I was there's a couple times where I got a little bit worried because my questions that I had ready, I should have kept it on the side of my monitor, but I had to put it back, and then it's really lucky that like Edmund's on TikTok as well, and he answers a lot of questions there in pretty good depth, so it's fortunate as well. He made it very easy, I think. But I appreciate that, Maddie. Oh my gosh, I stopped paying attention. Matt. Interviewer Fortnite Fridays, yeah. That's right, I should reach out to, who's it, Connor? I don't remember his full name. If anyone will say yes, why wouldn't Connor, you know what I mean? If Edmund can, or not Edmund, if Connor can get the Rizzler, why can't I, you know? No, I'm not gonna reach out to the Rizzler. Shout out to the Rizzler though. I don't know if Northern Lion was confirmed for Mugenics. If not, maybe I got the scoop. You know what I mean? Do you think I got the scoop on that one? The only reason why I named Northern Lion is because, like, Northern Lion is people I feel like talk about knowing him from Binding of... Well, that's the only reason I know who Northern Lion is Binding of Isaac. That's not the only reason, but, you know. He is the Binding of Isaac guy, kind of. Except now he's known as, like... He has, like, several memes now. Think we all expected it? Yeah. I got the confirmation. Northern Lion is your favorite streamer's favorite streamer? No, that's... Is that really what he has, is like a thing? He is... I have really just not watched his streams. Whenever I go on Twitch, I'm like, time to watch some random speedrunner. Ooh, nice. We don't have to... This has had good RNG to where I've only had to grind in one place. This is great. Doesn't mean anything, but, you know. I was going to ask you about that, Fel, but I didn't want to come off as like a jerk and be like, even Northern Lion doesn't like the Bazaar anymore. But I think he also hates Mario Kart World, so, you know, what can you do? What was that? 5 deaths is good. 5 deaths is good. Whatever. Will I be in it? No, I will not. I can confirm that right now. Sub 6, yeah. I think I was able to play even better to stay locked in. Like, this is something that I say a lot, where like whenever I lose my paces in general, I start playing worse. But on that one, I think I was able to stay locked in. Because like when I did like my GDQ hotfix run in September, I didn't get a PB, but I had tied my PB. And it's because it was really easy for me to lock in on something. Even if the stakes weren't necessarily as high. They even had some early deaths. Normally that would mean like, you know, reset and all that stuff. But oh, you already did this. I think actually doing that and, you know, having that made me play a little bit better. Didn't it kind of fall off, the Bazaar? Look, I don't know. The thing about the Bazaar is it comes off a little bit too much. It's just too flashy and colorful for me in a way that reminds me of just things that I don't care for. What's the Bazaar? Imagine if Balatro was like auto chess. I'm 2 pro dog, that's right. That's correct. All right, let's get the last one in here and we'll get a... I used to, when I got my mattress, I had like a cover, you had like a sleep mask that they gave for free with the mattress that I could have used, but I don't know where it is. It's lost. So I'm gonna have to like tie like a shirt or a towel or something around my face. I have too many monitors for it to be trustworthy to where I could just like say, oh no, my monitor's off. All right, we got it. We got it. 5 deaths. That's pretty good. All right, let's get out of that. I could use the same file. Oh, nice. Look, I have laundry that I brought in this room to fold. Let's double check we have 106 really quick. 106.